Welcome to another episode of the Catholic Novel. Now, today we are actually not doing a Catholic novel. We're doing a collection of short stories called The Presence of Grace by J.F. Powers. Walker Percy, who was one of my favorite novelists, wrote 6 novels, but he once said he had no idea how to write a short story. And I know what he meant. It's quite different than a novel. With a novel, you have a lot of space to move around. You can develop a story in detail. But I think in a short story, every word counts. So when I started reading Flannery O'Connor's short stories, I used to end the story and wonder what was it about. I needed someone to point out the key phrases, which by and large went right over my head. So with J.F. Powers, along with Flannery O'Connor, we're dealing with, I think, the 2 best American Catholics who wrote short stories. Now, in a sense, the key to the whole collection is the title, The Presence of Grace. Immediately when I think of J.F. Powers, I think of the word paradox. As a matter of fact, before this particular lecture, I looked up the dictionary definition of paradox. It's a joining of apparent contraries. It's a joining of ideas that seem to contradict one another, that seem not to fit together. And of course, the great paradox, capital P, in the history of the human race is the incarnation. The Danish philosopher, theologian Søren Kierkegaard said the incarnation, and by that Christians mean God becoming flesh, God becoming human. The incarnation is the crucifixion of the intellect. No matter how long you think about it, you cannot prove it and you cannot understand it. So the paradox that J.F. Powers deals with is the paradox of a human being being raised to the level of a priest. And he's absolutely fascinated by this, okay? And I think he provides some really good insights into this mystery. Now, it just so happens at this moment in my life, I'm very aware, I'm thinking about homilies I've been giving the last few weeks. I think one of the main dangers for anybody who takes Catholicism seriously, and by that I mean attends Mass every Sunday, receives the sacraments, is to allow it to become routine, to allow it to become business as usual. I think it can happen very easily. You know, we hear the same scripture readings, we say the same prayers during Mass, we probably see the same people at Mass and so on. I think it was Chesterton who said, once in a while, we should look at a crucifix differently. I don't know, maybe I should stand on my head or something, just to shock me, because it is shocking that all of us are loved so much that God dies for us. Now, I think that's what Powers is doing indirectly, okay? Now, I'm going to do something now, and I don't want to confuse anybody. I'm going to expand my understanding of paradox, the apparent joining of what are contraries. I'm going to use Søren Kierkegaard. The first existentialist philosopher's dates are 1813 to 1855. So don't be confused. I am not saying that J.F. Powers even heard of Kierkegaard. I'm sure he did, but I don't know whether he ever read him. So I'm not saying that I can see Søren Kierkegaard in J.F. Powers' short stories. I'm not saying that. Here's what I'm saying. I'm taking Kierkegaard's philosophy and trying to underline, emphasize, enlarge the notion of paradox. The notion of the incarnation is paradox. If J.F. Powers was here, he might say, Father Lauder, where did you get these ideas? These are not my ideas. But this is my interpretation. This is my attempt at evangelizing myself, okay, and maybe making more clear why Presence of Grace is a great title for these short stories. You know, when I was in the seminary, a priest named Leo Tracy, T4E8, wrote a book called Vessel of Clay. And of course, he took it from St. Paul. St. Paul said, we carry these treasures in vessels of clay. And that applies to a priest, but it also applies to anybody who's baptized. You know, that people become part of the body of Christ. I mean, I often think when I'm giving a homily, if someone would enter who had never been in a Catholic church and was not a believer, I think they would think we were so strange. And when we told them what we believe, I think they would find it very hard to believe that we believe that. So they would not only find it hard to believe what we believe, they'd find it hard to believe that we believe it, okay? Because it is so awesome and so wonderful. So that's why I'm using Kierkegaard. So this is my interpretation of Søren Kierkegaard. Kierkegaard said, Everybody lives on one of three stages of life. He called one the aesthetic, A-E-S-T-H-E-T-I-C. He called the second the ethical, and he called the third the religious. You can have parts of all three, but you, according to Kierkegaard, you live on one of them predominantly. Now, what is the aesthetic? It's the complete commitment to this world. There's no sense of transcendence at all. The key word is adventure. You do what you feel like doing. So a model of the aesthetic level is Don Juan. A different woman every night, and if she happens to be married to someone else, that makes the whole thing more exciting. Now, if you follow the aesthetic logically, the logical conclusion is suicide, because you are trying to find salvation in an opera or in a ballet or in a sexual experience or in the best wine, the best literature, whatever it happens to be, and you're not going to find it. You're not going to find it. So logically, suicide is the result. However, you do not have to commit suicide. You can leap to the next stage, which is the ethical. So the person on the ethical stage, the model Kierkegaard uses is a judge. Why a judge? Because judges know the law. They can tell us what, this is right and this is wrong and so on. So in the ethical stage, there's a tremendous sense of duty, keeping law, being loyal to your commitments. So on the aesthetic stage, Don Juan is a model. On the ethical stage, a judge is a model. So the person on the ethical stage says to the person on the aesthetic, everything good you have, we have, and better, okay? However, law does not fulfill you either, duty does not fulfill you either, okay? But you can leap to the third stage, which he calls the religious. So if you're reading anything and they refer to the Kierkegaardian leap, they almost always mean a leap to the religious stage. Now, when you make this leap, it's not a guarantee that you will stay there. You can fall back. But what is this third stage? Kierkegaard gives four characteristics. It's inward, it's deep, it's profound, it's life-changing. It's not a casual thing. Ordinarily you wouldn't be watching the Super Bowl and at halftime think, I've got nothing else to do, I think I'll make a leap to Christ. No, it's you at the center of your being, meeting God at the center of his being. So the first characteristic, it's inward. The second characteristic is it's subjective. And Kierkegaard does not mean arbitrary, which is how you and I, when we say subjective, we mean arbitrary. No, he means deeply personal. No one can do this for you. You must do it. So it's inward, it's subjective. The third characteristic is it involves a leap. It involves risking everything. Now this example helps me. I don't know whether Kierkegaard would like it, but it helps me. I'm on a cliff, and the risen Christ is on another cliff. How did I get to this cliff? Maybe the church got me here, maybe my parents got me here, maybe the schools I went to got me here, but there's only one way I can get over there to meet Christ, and that is to leap and risk everything. And if I miss, of course, I fall to a disaster, all right? Can I prove that Christ is on that cliff? I cannot. Can I understand Christ completely? How can he be human and divine? I cannot understand him completely. But I risk everything, and I make the leap. And I believe that I have met Jesus Christ. Do I now understand him completely? I do not. Can I now prove to anybody can I prove to anyone that I have met him? I cannot. What can I do? I can live in such a way that I bear witness. I live in such a way that my life makes no sense without Christ, okay? Now, the fourth characteristic, and this is the one I especially think we might open up the paradox. The fourth characteristic is it's absurd. The religious stage is absurd. Does Kierkegaard mean it makes no sense? No. He means it makes so much sense we cannot understand it completely. Well, why didn't he say it's a mystery? Well, I don't know. If I meet Kierkegaard in heaven, I'll ask him. But absurd is a much stronger word. It's a shocking word. And I think that's what sometimes we need. I think that's what Chesterton meant when he said once in a while we should look at a crucifix in a different way, okay? So first absurdity is Christ himself. How can he be human and divine? That's absurd, but it's true. Second absurdity is I risk everything on making this leap. That's absurd, but that's what I should do. After how long does it take me to make this leap? Could be 10 seconds. Could be 10 seconds. But by that leap, I gain eternity. That's absurd. How can a temporary human act, temporary free act that takes, let's make it very long, a minute, takes a minute. How can that gain eternal salvation? That's absurd, but it's true. Okay? So Christ is absurd, and you are absurd for taking this risk. Okay? That's what I think, I'm hoping that expands the notion of paradox. What Catholics believe is awesome. And we never want to lose that sense of wonder, of awe. And as I'm hoping that, maybe Kierkegaard can, Kierkegaard's doctrine can kind of shock us and wake us up and so on. Now, Kierkegaard was the first existentialist philosophy, so a tremendous emphasis on freedom. So once you make the leap, you're not like solidified. Like nothing can ever go wrong. No, you can slip back, okay? So it's an ongoing relationship with the risen Christ, okay? And I hope now you see why Kierkegaard says the incarnation is the crucifixion of the intellect, because we can't understand it, we can't prove it, and we risk everything on it. Ordinarily, we only take chances. It's like we're like people who play with the horses. We only take chances on things that we're certain of. Not that we're certain of, excuse me. That we can prove something solid, something we get our hands on. See, now we're being asked, suggested, invited to take a leap in the dark, which is what we do at baptism. A leap in the dark, trusting in God. Okay, having said all that, if you pay attention as you read J.F. Powers, and I think probably you have to pay special attention because it's different, it's a little bit different. And it's perfectly okay to laugh because the depictions he makes of priests, they are funny. I mean, priests are human too, okay? But underlying it, remember the name of the book is The Presence of Grace. See, so no matter how worldly, no matter how ignorant, no matter how uncouth a priest is, he's been chosen by God to administer the sacraments. I mean, what a life, okay, what a life. So anyway, this is the one book we're doing so far that is not a novel, but I think you will smile often going through this book. And I hope J.F. Powers' wisdom, and it is wisdom, touches you as I hope it has touched me.